Hi there ladies and gentlemen, it's Eastwood for Life fan here, and this is another recent viewings video where I'll talk about all the TV series and movies that I've watched recently. And this is everything that I've watched from December till the end of March, and one could always talk about what they pick up in their updates, but it's always good to talk about the movies and TV series that they've watched. So we'll start off with the DVDs first, and a TV series that I am really enjoying watching at the moment. Finished watching season 3 of Tales from the Crypt, and another great season, even better than the first 2 seasons, and even more superstars and actors appear in this one. You do get the likes of Whoopi Goldberg, Malcolm McDowell, Tim Roth appear in this season. And actually my favourite episode was the very last episode, and this was a good one, the Reluctant Vampire, starring with Malcolm McDowell. But my favourite one was episode 16, titled as Yellow, and as the credits came on, it had the name of Kirk Douglas, and I thought I was actually seeing things, but yep, Kirk Douglas appears in an episode of Tales from the Crypt with his son, and also Lance Henriksen and Dan Aykroyd. So pretty a big star-studded lineup in an episode of Tales from the Crypt. But yeah, another great season, and I really do hope that there will be a Blu-ray release of a box set of this great horror and comedy TV series. Bit of Lauren Hardy, and this is not one of their more well-known movies. This one's The Bullfighters, 1940s Lauren Hardy movie, and it does have its has its moments where Stan and Ollie play 2 detectives when they go to Mexico in the case to catch a thief, and Stan gets mistaken for a famous matador. But yeah, okay, an enjoyable one. An early Al Pacino movie, this one, The Panic in Needle Park, and this one was a bit of a tough watch because it's a pretty tough subject to watch, where you see a group of heroin addicts in New York where they scheming to get their next fix. So it's quite a harrowing story, but Al Pacino puts in a superb acting performance, and the role in this that he plays won him the role of the Godfather movie. Next one's a mid-70s Italian crime drama, The Small Ian Maniacs, with a good cast, starring Martin Balsam, Franco Nero and Fernando Rey. Not one of the best Franco Nero movies that he's more known for, but different role in seeing him in this one, where he plays an ambitious judge, where he realises that a lot of the politicians in Italy are corrupt. But yeah, it was an okay movie. And finally, this is a movie that I've never watched before. This one, The Wickerman, a British horror classic, and great cast with Christopher Lee, Edward Woodward, who was the Equalizer, and also Britt Ekland. But I was a little bit disappointed in the finale of this movie. You had plenty of build-up where a policeman goes to a small Scottish village to track down a missing girl, wouldn't mind checking out the remake with Nicolas Cage. But yeah, slightly disappointed with this one for a first time watch, because I'd heard quite a lot about this classic British horror movie. And another movie that was a first time watch is this Lucio Fulci slasher movie, The New York Ripper. It's titled here The Sickest Movie Ever Made, and you got to say it's up there for the movies in the early 80s, this one, where a serial killer goes on a killing spree in New York, killing young women, and he goes on the phone in this Donald Duck-like voice. But yeah, some real gruesome kills in this one, and pretty brutal. For me, I think the movie could have been a tad better if the leading cop detective in the actual investigation could have been a more well-known European actor. But yeah, enjoyable slasher movie, this one, in The New York Ripper. The next one is my favourite David Cronenberg movie, The Dead Zone, taken from the Stephen King novel, this early 1980s movie. And this is a rewatch for me. Always remembered watching this back in the VHS days, where Christopher Walken plays a school teacher, and he has a car accident only to wake up years later from a coma, and he realizes that he has these psychic powers. And also Martin Sheen is in this movie. But great movie, this one, and one of my favourite Christopher Walken roles in this one. And would love to see a UK or a US Blu-ray release of this one. I do know that there is a German Blu-ray release of this, and I might consider picking that one up at some point. But yeah, great movie, this one, The Dead Zone. And another Stephen King novel that got turned into a movie. This is Sleepwalkers, early 90s movie, this one, and not one of his better received movies to go on screen, this one. About two sleepwalkers, a mother and son. They go to a new town searching for life force, and they seek life force in a young virgin girl. But yeah, okay movie, this one, but not one of Stephen King's better novels turned into a movie. And this one, first time watch for me, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, this one, and movie that's loosely based on true events. But mainly wanted to check this one out because I do like Michael Rooker when he's playing the role of a villain, and fantastic performance in this one where he plays a drifter who meets up with his old prison buddy. They both go out on a killing spree. But yeah, some brutal kills in this one, and some very awkward moments in this movie, Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. And I do like that headline. He's not Freddy, he's not Jason, he's real. A werewolf movie, this one, first time watch, Dog Soldiers, and I thought this was a pretty good werewolf movie, highly underrated. And this one's about a British squad. They go to the Scottish Highlands for a training kind of mission, and they realise once they're there that they're not the only ones in the Highlands, as there are werewolves awaiting. And this one stars Sean Pertwee. Very good werewolf movie, this one. Did like the action scenes. I thought they were well made, and the werewolves were pretty good. in the makeup and costumes. But yeah, good werewolf movie, and I probably would consider picking up the US Screen Factory edition of Dog Soldiers. Next two movies are horror remakes. The first one is The Ring. There is a Japanese original movie of The Ring. Always wanted to check this one out, and this was a first time watch for me, and kind of didn't really enjoy this one after plenty of build up, where there's a mysterious videotape that's going around. When one gets to play the videotape, then that individual who plays the videotape gets killed off. Kind of like a mystery horror movie, this one. But yeah, disappointing for me. And I do have the Japanese version to watch, and I'm pretty sure that one's going to be better than this American remake. And another horror remake, this one, Dawn of the Dead, directed by Zack Snyder. And I absolutely love the George A. Romero classic, Dawn of the Dead. But this one is more or less exactly the same story, scene by scene, but predictable, but it was okay. I was probably expecting a little bit more for this one, for the modern day remake, Dawn of the Dead. Yeah, okay watch, but nothing special in my opinion. The next one's a Wesley Snipes movie that I revisited, and when you consider that this movie, Boiling Point, has got Snipes, Dennis Hopper and Viggo Mortensen in this cop thriller, it kind of does disappoint really. Pretty basic story of a cop who's trying to track down the killers of his partner in an operation, who are Dennis Hopper and Viggo Mortensen, two scam artists that are looking for a final big score. Yeah, bit disappointed, and it kind of lacked towards the end. Boiling Point, not one of Wesley Snipes' better action movies in my opinion. On to some Chuck Norris movies. This one is Hellbound, made in the mid-90s, 1994. This one, where two Chicago cops, they go to Israel investigating on a murder case, which leads them to a ancient demon of evil. Little bit of a silly one, this one. Horror, action, comedy, silliness on this one. But this was one of the very last movies made by Cannon Films, and this was directed by Chuck's brother Aaron Norris, but not one of the better Chuck Norris movies that he made for Cannon. And onto the Blu-rays now, and these three are more well-known Chuck Norris movies that he made for Cannon, and this one's Missing in Action. I wanted to revisit the trilogy for a upcoming Chuck Norris video collection video that I'll be doing fairly soon. But yeah, great action movie this one, and very successful movie for Chuck Norris and Cannon Films, the first Missing in Action movie. And with that, I'll watch the sequel, Missing in Action 2, The Beginning, which is like the prequel to the Missing in Action movies, but a little bit underrated, this one. I enjoyed this one. Chuck Norris, most of the movie he's in the Vietnam POW camp where he's trying to get away. But yeah, good one, this one, Missing in Action 2, The Beginning. Guys, let us know what your favourite Missing in Action movie is. And the final one, Braddock Missing in Action 3. Kind of my least favourite in the trilogy. They did try to title it up here. By far the best movie of the series. Well, it had its moments. There was some good action scenes, but I much prefer the other two Missing in Action movies. Next one's a Stephen King mini-series that I'd never watched before, and it had a UK Blu-ray release, and this is The Stand. Bit disappointed with this one, and this one's about a deadly plague, and despite a great cast in this, kind of looked a little bit outdated in my opinion. The Stand, yeah, not one of my favourite movies or miniseries from Stephen King onto the screen. Next one's a Christmas slasher that I was really impressed with. This one, Christmas Evil, made in 1980, and I spoke about this in an update where a adult toy maker, he goes on a killing spree, and he's affected at an early age where he realizes that Santa Claus isn't real. But yeah, very good Christmas slasher, this one, in Christmas Evil, and this is the 88 Films release, UK release. Couldn't wait to watch this one of the releases of last year, the Arrow video of an American Werewolf in London. One of my favourite horror movies, directed by John Landis, and the transfer of this was really well made, and just in awe revisiting this horror classic again. And with this release you get stacks of features, you get plenty of documentaries into the movie, and yeah, one of the best releases of last year from Arrow Video. Suspect that most of you would have picked this one up. Essential Buy, and another werewolf movie that I revisited again, Silver Bullet. And I got to be honest, back in the VHS days, I always used to prefer The Howling over Silver Bullet, but after a recent viewing, really enjoyed watching this one again. Great cast in this one: Gary Busey, Everett McGill, and the young Corey Haim, where a small town are experiencing a few deaths where they actually think it's a serial killer, but it's not, it's a werewolf. And I know quite a few people were complained about the werewolf didn't look realistic enough, but I thought the werewolf in this was okay. Yeah, this movie has gone up in my estimation. Silver Bullet, great werewolf movie, this one. The next one's a modern day zombie movie, this one, The Girl with All the Gifts, starring Glenn Close. And this zombie movie, a little bit different from the usual zombie movies out there, and this one's set in the UK, and the remaining survivors are quite dependent on the young girl for their survival. But yeah, nice and different spin on zombie movies, this one, The Girl with All the Gifts. I enjoyed this one. And next one's a horror movie that for many years I've never actually watched it all in one go, and finally watched Psycho. Many times I've watched this Hitchcock classic in bits and pieces, but yeah, really happy that I finally watched Psycho. I do have Psycho 2 to watch, but one of the more the most iconic Hitchcock movies that he's made, but got to be honest, I slightly prefer The Birds. That's a little bit more frightening than the Psycho movie, but for sure this is the movie that really started the slasher movie trend. Another movie from the 60s. This one is The Swimmer, starring Burt Lancaster. Pretty good watch, this one. I enjoyed this one. And watching this movie, one would have thought that Rod Sterling had written the story for this movie, and it was kind of had a feeling for a episode out of the Twilight Zone, where Burt Lancaster, he's living in a kind of more richer area, and he's trying to get home, where he's swimming from pool to pool in a lot of the people's mansions and homes. And interesting watch, this one. It's kind of a film that leaves the finale open to your own conclusion, but pretty good movie, this one. The Swimmer, late 60s movie. And a movie that I always wanted to check out, this is American History X. Great movie, this one. Really did enjoy this one. Starring Edward Norton, Edward Furlong, where Edward Norton plays a neo-Nazi, and he goes inside for a few years for a crime, and then when he comes out, he hopes that his younger brother, played by a young Edward Furlong, doesn't follow his path in crime and hate. But great movie, this one, and brilliant cast in this. You also get Stacy Keach, Elliot Gould, and also Beverly D'Angelo out of the Vacation movies. Next one's a World War II movie. First time watch. Not the biggest fan of Brad Pitt, I've got to be honest, but this one caught my eye. And Brad Pitt plays a tank commander, and him and his team, they go on a deadly mission in Germany. Very good action scenes in the tanks. Really enjoyed watching those scenes, and far better than I thought this movie was going to be. Fury, really very good World War II movie. And I finished season 6 of The Walking Dead, and another great season from The Walking Dead. Really enjoying this series. I know a lot of viewers kind of gone downhill in watching this, but I'm still enjoying the series of The Walking Dead, and I will stay with it. And great scenes in the first couple of episodes of the quarry scenes with the zombies, and the arrival of Negan, probably one of the best villain arrivals in a TV series that I can remember in a long time. But yeah, great character. And I've also started season 7 of The Walking Dead. And the last movie is a Christmas classic. Yep, I consider It's a Wonderful Life a Christmas movie, starring James Stewart. Don't need to go into too much detail of this classic and family favourite, but a great movie, this one, and beautiful transfer, the new restoration of this movie. Never seen this one looking so crisp and perfect, and this was very glad to revisit this one. And definitely, if you guys haven't picked up the new transfer of this, definitely worth adding to the collection. So guys, they are all the movies and TV series that I watched from December to the end of March before the lockdown. Guys, let us know what you thought of all the TV series and movies that I've watched, and I look forward to seeing your comments and having some interaction with you guys. Hope you stay safety and aware. Take care, and I'll see you all in the next video.